So welcome everybody to this episode of Meet the Judge, and tonight I am joined by a judge from Brazil, a boxer specialist, judges Albury's FCI, also licensed to judge in the AKC, former president of the Santos Kennel Club, the Boxer Club of Paulista, and the Boxer Club of Brazil, and also a former a member of the Judges Department of the Kennel Club Brazil. Good afternoon, Ricardo. How are you?
Good afternoon, Colm. I'm okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity of sharing a little bit of myself with your huge viewers.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. Before we start, just a brief. Let us know how things are in Brazil right now with COVID.
Well, you know, we are like everywhere. We are living a very tough period, and here in Brazil, because of all difficulties of a large country, we are almost 200 million people in this country. So we started vaccinating everyone now, but it will take a long time. So and anyway, vaccines is not it's something that you just turn on and off. So we will have to continue all the precaution with all restrictions. Restaurants are closed. Everything is. We are not living in lockdown, but a sort of half lockdown makes life miserable because nobody is getting out and everything. So I believe after that, I don't know when, we're going to have a lot of problems with the depression and everything in people.
Yes, that's fair. Yes,
you know, but hopefully this will end. This will end eventually, and we will be fit again.
And as we were discussing before we went on air, this is traditionally Carnival weekend.
Yes,
but that I assume has been cancelled.
Well, actually, the festivities of Carnival, the parades and everything have been cancelled, but the holidays are still on because they are official holidays in the country. So myself, I'm here in our country home and enjoying, as I showed you before, a nice caipirinha and having some rest, because there's everything we can do, having rest, no festivities and nothing. That's it. That's how we're doing things around here now.
And are there any dog shows happening in Brazil?
No.
Do you think there will be by this year?
It could be. It depends on on the sanitary authorities. We are. I actually, you mentioned at the beginning that I am belong to the former judges committee in Brazil. Actually, I am the president of the committee in Brazil, and it is my duty to approve and to license the shows to come. And the only thing we request is a license, a permit from the local authorities. Brazil is a large country, as you know. It's almost a continent, so it depends on the region. Things are worse or better. And if the local club succeed in getting a license to promote the show, okay, we will approve. If not, no, we cannot approve. But so far, we are starting to walk on that path, you know.
And I assume you will start maybe with smaller breed shows.
Oh yeah,
rather than
specialty shows, particularly in the German Shepherds, because they are more active in specialty shows in this country. So they are getting some places, some regions, they allow them to do that with a lot of restrictions and depending, no public and limited entrance to the show grounds and everything, all the precaution masks and everything, distance from everyone. But you know, anyway, it's not the nice thing. It's just to do it.
Yes. Anne Ingram, by the way, says she loves. Is it Caffrinis? Is it?
I'm sorry.
the drink you were drinking. Anne Ingram says
I'm having a nice cashew nut caipirinha, not nut, cashew caipirinha, which is very good. Cheers.
Anne Ingram says she loves them. She had them when she was there in Brazil.
Yeah, this is our national drink. You know, caipirinha is. But the original one is with lime. This one is a bit sophisticated.
So, Ricardo, when you started, did you have dogs when you were growing up? Were your parents involved in the sport?
Well, my parents were not involved with dogs at all. So I had a sort of attractions for animals, and I started my personal experiences start with a small white mice named Seraphine, which was very good, but I had to hide the mice from my mother because my mother
okay.
was at home. And then after Seraphine passed away, unfortunately eaten by a cat, a neighbor's cat, I tried fish breeding, and I built a huge aquarium at home, who eventually broke down and flogged the house for the spare of my parents. And that ended my side experience with animals or something like that. But my first purebred breed dog came to my life when I was already a teenager. So I didn't start very young. Yeah, I was about 17 when I
okay. And what was your first breed?
My first breed was American Cocker Spaniel.
Really?
I went
That's to my breed.
Oh yeah, it's your breed. Good. I went to a dog show, and I was very impressed with all the coat, just running around the ring and everything. So I bought a beautiful black and tan Cocker Spaniel. It was called Moonlight-Based Tornado. It's Tony, what it's called. And but eventually the demands of grooming were a bit too much for me at the time. And then I changed to my beloved breed till today, which is the Boxer. Well, in the meantime, I had pugs because I moved to in a moment of my life. I moved to an apartment. It was a big apartment actually, but anyway, of course, not fit for boxes. And I had pugs, which was the closest that I could.
Yes.
Also. And I loved the breed. I really loved the breed. It was an amazing breed, little breed, lovely dogs.
And when you started in boxers, which again would be your specialty, how long did it take you to win within the breed, or did you find?
Actually, well, let's say my first champion achieved was with Tony, the Cocker Spaniel. I'm talking about 50 years ago, you know. So with boxers, I had also some champions, some bred at home, and some that came from other kennels that I exchanged bloodlines and everything, and that was it.
And were there particular people in the breeds that influenced you?
Oh yeah. Well, I got into the dog world by the hands of a great Brazilian all-rounder judge in the old times, named Marcelo Mota. Marcelo was much older than me, but we have developed a great friendship since the university days, because he entered the university as a senior student, and he was like a father to me, and he was a judge. And as I liked animals, then he got my hand and put me into the sport. So he gave me he taught me everything I know now. You know. Basically, it was a great beginning. Marcelo was a great fellow. I miss him very much.
And you then, in 1971, if I'm correct, you moved to London.
Actually, yes. In 71, I moved to London. Yeah.
And did you continue in the sport there, or?
Oh yeah. Yes. I continued the sport there, and I lived in London for about 12 years. And after London, I moved to the States, That's the reason I judged for at the time for the American Kennel Club, because according to their rules, after 2 years of formal residence, you need to choose. Either you apply to be an AKC judge, or you are not allowed to judge as a foreign judge anymore. So that's what I did. I was an all-rounder at the time, but they didn't give me the all-rounder license. They gave me a couple of breeds, was boxers, Rottweilers, Dobermans, and Akitas. And then I judged those 4 breeds. But I resigned AKC last year, so I'm no longer a licensed judge for the AKC.
Okay.
Good experience, but it's a different world. AKC, a different world than that. It's totally different, nothing to do.
And did you find when you were living in London and showing in London for the 12 years, did you find the show scene very different to what you were used to?
Oh yeah, because at that time Brazil was a very let's say American oriented in dog shows and in breeds and everything. Let's say the boxer type, there was American boxer type, the Doberman type was an American Doberman type, and also the organization of show, the protocols of shows they were very different in Brazil. And that for me was an impact. But of course, after 12 years, you have to get used to it anyway. So,
how much of an influence on your breeding did you find because I'm assuming you mixed European lines with your own lines while you were there?
Well, not much. What I bred were boxers only. I didn't breed American Cocker Spaniels nor Pugs, only boxers. And I followed the American line. Actually, in the old time, not in the old times, but in times I was more active, there were 2 very important kennels in breeders in America, the Sawgrays and the Three-Seeders. And they were a legend that you shouldn't cross the 2 bloodlines. It wouldn't produce good dogs. I followed the Three-Seeders line at the time because in Argentina, the neighbor country, they used to follow that line, and they have wonderful boxes. So I followed that. I had a Sawgrays also, which was from Sawgrays Stuffed Shirt, an American champion that became Brazilian champion as well. He went only for 10 shows and he got 10 puppy shows. It was a great dog, and I got some puppies for that dog. But my preference was American bloodlines.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier about the European type or the FCI type, and then the American type.
Yeah.
Particularly in the breeds like golden retrievers, where in America they are so different.
Totally different.
Do you think they almost should be a breed apart, or
No.
is it when in Rome, do as the Romans?
No, it would have only one standard. And as I say to everyone, even for boxers or Dobermans or any other breed, a good European boxer, let's say, a dog, will win in the States, and vice versa. A top boxer, top American boxer, will go to Europe and he will win. So I don't see any reason why to split the breed in 2. If we have only one standard, that's a question of preference. We have to be very careful with the tendencies and with the overtype and that kind of things, because you should bring the breed to their original characteristics according to functionality, to structure and everything. You shouldn't be playing with types, and I don't really like that.
Okay, and in terms of your achievements as an exhibitor, what would you class as your biggest achievement?
Well, I started to judge very early. I was very young, and that caused me to show very little, because it was not exactly politically correct to judge dog and everything. But anyway, I believe my great achievement was to win the American Cocker Spaniel national show in Brazil with Tony. That my first dog in 1967. It was a long time ago. It was a great moment for a young boy, as I could define myself at the time. With boxers, I had good results, but nothing to compare with that. That emotion, that day was remarkable in my life, of course.
And American Cockers in South America are very strong.
Oh yeah, they are particularly
very strong. I mean, they're amongst some of the best in the world.
Yeah, we had a great breeder in Argentina, Adolfo Spector. He bred wonderful dogs that won all over the world. So it's South America is very strong in American Cocker Spaniel.
And just again, Anne Ingram is agreeing with you that a good boxer will win anywhere in the world.
That's it. Yeah, I guess so. I know it's.
So when you're choosing your breeding, or when you're choosing which dog to breed, which bitch to, do you study pedigrees, or do you go with your eye that dog is going to suit that bitch?
Well, I try to be a very humble breeder and listen to the more experienced people who know exactly what to do. I had a mentor in boxers, my very good friend Ernesto Balbiani. And Balbiani helped me to breed. We were studying pedigrees and trying to find the best options to use in our bitches and everything. So he guided me in my breeding program all the time. He was a wonderful person and a wonderful breeder and a wonderful mentor for me. He passed away many years ago, but it was through his hands that I got some good boxers actually.
And again, I don't think a lot of people realize, particularly when they start off in a breed, that it is very important for you to ask advice of more experienced breeders. And you don't know everything when you start breeding, so ask the advice, take the advice, and then use it to help your bloodlines along.
Well, actually, you don't know everything, never.
No.
So even if you have 100 years of experience, you don't know everything. So I believe the opinion of experienced breeders and visiting kennels, attending seminars and trying to study books. I always say to my young judges in Brazil, say, listen, sometimes a standard is just one page. On the other hand, you can go to a library and see a book with 200 pages about the same breed. What do you think? That is only garbage? It's a trash? No, of course, there's a lot of information there. So we need to study. We as I said at the beginning, we don't know everything. You get opinions. You just get this bit, which is important for you, that bit, the other opinion. So you put all together. You make a collection of opinions, and then you're able to extract something good from that. That's what I mean. You have to be humble. You have to be always humble.
And so when did you start judging?
Well, as I said, I started very young. In those times, things in Brazil, they were different. We had few breeds only in the ring and a few dog shows in the country. Totally different than now. Now we have almost 400 shows in a year.
Wow.
But not in those times, So I started judging Group 1. I studied. Our exams were per group, and I received my Group 1 license in 1971. So this very year, I will complete 50 years judging breeds, my 50th anniversary, which is a lot of time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And when you started judging, what was the best piece of advice that you were given?
Well, I can recall two two advices or opinions, or how, it doesn't matter how we call them. One of them is I should be very aware about type.
Mm-hmm.
Structured judge, we have many around the world, but judges of type, it's a different matter. It requires much more study, much more dedication, much more involvement with the breed. So it doesn't. It is important, of course, if you study the standard, if you read a lot, if you talk to people and everything. But you have to look for the type to identify good type in dogs. What is the correct type for a breed? What is the best type that will perform better according to functionality and everything? I believe that is a very important thing, and that's the advice I receive, and I try to follow. And the other thing that I heard from Marcelo Mota, my mentor at the beginning, and which it is really true, he said to me, pay a lot of attention when the dogs enter in the class, when they are walking the reed to be placed, because what you don't see in 30 seconds, forget about it. You won't see. You won't see. You can stay with your hands on the dog for hours and you won't see. So you have to have some feeling. You have to have good eye. So those advices or opinions or lessons.
That's very good advice. Yes.
I try to keep in mind today when I judge a dog show.
And do you think now for judges that are starting off, do you think it is very important for them to, same as for reading, to ask questions of more experienced judges? Do you think enough judges do that? Well,
unfortunately, I guess the majority does, but unfortunately, some judges they believe that they know enough, and that is wrong, because you need to dive deeply into every piece of information you can get on the breed, on the dogs and everything. And it's much the guidance of experienced judges and the experienced breeders and the sensitivity they have about breed, the sensitivity they have about where they want to go with the breed, what they want to do, what they should do to keep the basic characteristics of the breed, not to lose to fashion and tendencies, temporary tendencies and everything. I believe that's very important. I don't think, not even a complete library will replace the opinions of these experienced breeders and judges.
And I think, as I often say, we as all breeds judges are very lucky, because we get to travel quite a lot and sit with other judges or breed specialists, particularly when you're watching groups. And although you're an all breeds judge, you don't stop learning. And you always learn something at the side of a group ring when you're chatting to somebody about a breed they're passionate about.
Yeah, you know what? In Brazil, we have a training program for new judges, and then we give seminars and everything. And I'm very much involved with that. And I tell them, you know what? Each seminar, I end the seminar knowing much more than I knew when I started the seminar. And I am 50 years in the ring judging. So nobody knows everything. You have to be humble. You have to be open for new information and everything. That's I believe that is the big secret. Being humble. Yes. That's it.
Yeah. And as I said earlier, you are an all breeds judge. When did you achieve all breeds status?
Oh, in 1971.
In 71.
Yeah, that's it. 50 years ago, I judged my first besting show. It was really. I felt very important at the time. Now I know that's not that time for me. Oh my God, I was a star.
Do you enjoy judging abroad?
Oh, very much. very much. As I am as I mentioned before, as I am the president of the Judges Committee in Brazil, as a question of personal policy, I prefer not judging in Brazil, and only accept assignments abroad. So, and today I share my time, my residence time, between my home in Brazil and my home in Portugal, my dear country. And occasionally, it also makes easier and cheaper for my friends around the world to honor me with invitations. And for many years, I've been the pleasure of being present at exhibitions in all continents, and I hope to do so for a long time to come. If the virus allows, I don't know.
And of course, because you predominantly live in Brazil, that's a lot of traveling.
Oh yeah. Oh,
that's long haul.
Really, that's why I spend most of the time in Portugal, which is easy to realize. I would be traveling every month to Europe, which is I'm talking about 11, 12 hours flight in economy class, of course.
And do you have a favorite country to judge in?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a favorite country to judge in?
Well, no, not at all. Of course, there are countries. It all depends, because people they're not aware of our life as a judge. You know, oh my God, you're happy. You go to everywhere. You know everywhere. Oh, sometimes you arrive on the Saturday and you just get home on Sunday, so you don't have time for anything. I remember once I went to judge in Finland, and it was winter time. And I got there on Friday evening. The showground were underneath the hotel, and I judged 2 days, and then I got home. I don't know if it was snowing outside, so I've never been outside, which is normal. In our life, it's normal. So I enjoy, of course. There are some countries where I have more friends. I have people that I miss, and so we spend good time together. And sometimes I on my own account, of course, I stay some days longer, and I have the opportunity to enjoy my friends and so some countries, but not particularly because of the country, just because of the friends.
And I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people who don't, or who maybe haven't judged abroad yet, think it's very glamorous. But very often you're just seeing the inside of the hotel, then the showgrounds, back to the hotel, etc. You're meeting good friends, you're chatting with them in the evening, but it's hard work.
It is hard work. It is hard work. You have to do that. Sometimes you spend the whole day walking in the ring, and you walk miles inside. People don't realize that, but the judge is always moving, and ending and standing and moving and moving. So it's hard work, and I'm not a young guy, so and there are judges much older than myself, and I can imagine the difficulties we had. It's hard work. It's not only glamour,
Yeah. Do you have, aside from your own breeds now, do you have a favorite breed to judge?
Well, I believe normally the answer for that question, no, I have no preference any breed. No, that's not exactly true. I believe that each and every judge feels more comfortable judging certain breeds, whether because they know them better, which is also normal, or they like them better, which is also, again, normal, or for any other reason. But some preference exists. Of course, it doesn't mean that you will base your judgment on that preference. No, you don't do that. But you just feel more comfortable. You feel more, more pleasure in judging certain breeds than others. It's a question of personal matter, question of personal, comfort. I have more interaction over the years, of course, with my own breeds, but I have not particular predilection with other than some groups. I feel comfortable judging group 2, for instance, and group 9. Nothing to do with 9, but I like them. Group 9 is easy because of my back. I have a back problem, so I judge it on the table. It's very convenient. But again, it doesn't mean that they're going to have any kind of advantage because of that. No.
I just have somebody asking a question here now. Do you find it challenging when your exhibits deviate to extremes in style. In other words, American versus European is the comment.
I don't like that. I don't like that. For American handlers sometimes they dress in a very provocative way, and they do. It looks like they are performing a ballet in the ring and everything. I don't like that, because that difficults your judgment, first of all. And if they exceed in the grooming, the normal grooming, it's also difficult to judgment, because you have to do a lot of work with your hands instead of trusting in your
Mm-hmm.
eyes. So I prefer judging more natural dogs than excessively groomed or excessively handled dogs with those handlers that kind of do pirouettes in the ring and jumping, and it's ridiculous.
And just expanding on that now, and as a boxer person, this fashion that has crept into some parts of Europe and Eastern Europe of double handling Group 1 breeds like Boxers, Rottweilers, Dobermans, which sometimes goes to extremes. Are you in agreement with that, or?
No, I don't like that, and I asked you to stop. First of all, that's a rule. That's an FCI rule. You shouldn't allow double handling. And why you shouldn't allow? Because if that works for a certain dog, which is the target for that double handling, that may difficult the life of other dogs. They get distracted. So it's like gadgets with little noises and everything, and balls jumping, and I believe that first that is not necessary.
Yes.
First, a judge should understand that the dog. You have to judge the way the dog is. Of course, easier for the judge to judge a dog that is attentive, very well placed in his position, and without moving and everything. But what if come the old lady with that dog, dragging a dog by the leash, and the dog starts sleeping behind the lady? You have to judge it anyway, without any disadvantage in your decision. That's important. So yes. I don't like double-handed, and I asked them to stop to that.
And have you got a fault that really irritates you?
Well, we all know that there's no perfect dog. And faults and qualities are part of the context. In theory, actually, we judge the balance between those two aspects, quality and faults. So not taking into account faults caused by mistreatment, which is very irritating and very serious, actually. I'm not irritated by any fault whatsoever. I just don't deny that bothers me. It bothers me when you get a class coming into the ring and you look into the lot of dogs, to the group of dogs, and you see one particular dog that comes up beautiful and looks at you and says, "Okay, you have a problem finding the second place because the first is here." When you examine the dog and move it individually, you realize that the dog is a disaster, and that is frustrating because oh my God, I thought it was going to be easier, and I know that's difficult. I have to go all over again. So that irritates me a little bit, but that happens so often. So if you're gonna, you have to enjoy your work. You have to enjoy judging. If you don't judge.
Absolutely.
Stay at home.
Absolutely.
You won't be nice with people. You would be, kind of grumping all the time in the ring, and that is very bad.
And Johan Marquez is just asking what are the most important things when judging a dog?
Oh my God.
That's difficult.
It is difficult because I look for balance and soundness in the dog. And I look for a dog that hold what I call the three pillars that allow me to do a good judgment. The first one is the standard, but not in an importance order, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
The standard. The dog has to be according to the standard.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, the dog has to comply with the functionality of the breed.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter being a beautiful dog without complying with the function of the breed. So if it is a hunting dog, it has to have muscles and everything. If it is a guard dog, every breed has its own functionality. So they have to comply with that.
Yeah.
And the third one, it is the health. The dog has to be healthy. I don't believe in dogs that with lack of health that they cannot perform very well, even if they are beautiful in the ring. So you try to. It's not easy, but you try to make a mix of those three important qualities and try to get the soundest dog on the way. And that's what I first looked to a dog. That was I look when I judge a dog.
That's fair comment. Now you mentioned earlier, as we all know, there is no such thing as the perfect dog. But in your career, has there been a particular dog which you've judged, which in your opinion is so close to the standard as to be almost perfect, or has really given you that wow factor?
Well, of course, in 50 years, I had judged many wow dogs. Not only because they had top quality, because I was a young judge, and I was kind of discovering important dogs and beautiful dogs. But now looking to the past, and I can remember just a few. The first one that came to my mind was an incredible Doberman Pinscher that I judged in Miami, Lex Luthor from Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great dog. Very impressive dog. More recently, a boxer bitch that I gave the Australian Boxer National Best in Show, Cadence Love at First Sight, was really a terrific boxer. I fell in love with that boxer. And she gave me a lot of kisses at dinner. Wonderful. I remember also in Mexico, in a very big show in Mexico, a small bulldog bitch, Supernova Hernandez. She got best in show. Wonderful, also wonderful boxer that I can't forget. And let's say a standard poodle in Toronto, in Canada, Vexat Kate Winsett. Also won a best in show with me. It was amazing. And what a move as that poodle. It was incredible. I remember until today. Really, when she moved around the ring, she got to win.
There is nothing more spectacular when they're good.
To be considered. Finally, a small Shiba in Tallinn, in Estonia, Mara Shima's Kim Kata. Gave best in show. It was a big show as well, about 4,000 dogs. And that little Shiba got my eye. It was a beautiful dog. So that's what I remember. There were so many,
And on the other extreme, has there been a dog that you've seen or that you from the past that you've never judged, but you would love to have judged?
Absolutely. Again, it's a boxer. There was a boxer bitch, Arribas Prima Donna.
Mm-hmm.
She won the Westminster Best in Show in 1970. She was a red fawn with white markings. Really, in someone words, elegance personified. It was wonderful, wonderful boxer. I was at the Madison Square Garden in 1976 at the Bicentennial Show when Prima Donna was honored among some other past winners of that show, and she entered the ring under a loud applause from a standing audience. And I have to confess, I couldn't contain my emotion. Mm-hmm. an exception dog. That kind of is born every 50 or 100 years. It's amazing dog, amazing dog. I never judged that dog, of course. I would love to, but.
Just a question coming in there again. Type versus temperament. What's the decider for the highest honors? But I don't think you can. I'll throw it to you, but I don't think you can do type versus temperament. I think you've got to have one with the other. Would you agree?
I don't really know. It's difficult because I believe that every dog is a different emotion. Dogs stands in front of you and in a certain way he talks to you. So you feel you have a lot of feelings when evaluating. People don't believe on that because it's 2-3 minutes. You look for hundreds of dogs in one day, but I don't think so.
Now, as you say, you've been judging for 50 years this year, so I'm sure over those 50 years you must have had the odd irate exhibitor or somebody that wasn't happy with your judging decision. How do you deal with that?
Well, I'm not a very tolerant judge with that kind of things. No, I'm not. And that exhibitor would certainly have to leave my ring. I wouldn't accept any kind of complaint placed in a bad manner. The sport is or should be a hobby, and rivalry should always be present. We need to know how to win or lose with grace. And that's a duty that fair play obliges. So I am always available to explain my judgment to any polite exhibitor. But when I notice that the conversation starts to drift a little bit to an unpleasant climate, I just tell the exhibitor, listen, you pay a registration fee to have my opinion, and I already gave it to you, so nothing to add. If you want another opinion, go to another show where I judge, and then you're going to have it. That's it. Which is not very polite from my side, but I need to stop that kind of conversation. Otherwise, you're going to enter in a situation. Yes. I don't. It's difficult.
Yeah. Okay. So we've heard what your biggest achievement is as an exhibitor. So your biggest achievement as a judge?
Well, I don't really know what to say. But many shows marked me positively in 50 years in the ring. So some because of their size and importance, such as the World Dog Show. Others for their impeccable organization, many for the attention and cordiality of the organizer and exhibitors. I have excellent memories of several assignments and really would not be able to highlight just one. Anyway.
Okay. And critiquing. Do you enjoy critiquing? Do you see a value in them?
No, I don't. I don't enjoy critiques. First of all, because you have to be checking on the steward if they got exactly what you said, and particularly when they write the critiques in a language that you don't understand, they are translated, which are the French or whatever you're saying, and so you can't check, so you don't know if you're writing the right way. But anyway, I believe that critiques are very important, extremely useful. We judges are supposed to be selectors of best dogs. And our critiques should be used as a guides especially for new breeders and new exhibitors. Unfortunately, nowadays, a large number of exhibitors goes to dog show in search of victories without really caring about the reasons for the judge's decision, and even less for following them in their breeding programs. Several times I heard phrases like, I prefer the judge to be wrong in my favor than to be right against me. So what matters is victory, not our opinion or advice. But for a serious breeder and exhibitor, I would say that the critique is very important.
And that leads me on to my next question, which is do you think that judges have a role in the development of breeds, or in sort of checking breeders when maybe they are going too far or extreme with it, or have a fault creeping in?
Well, I am absolutely convinced that the role of the judge is very important, particularly in maintaining the characteristics of each breed. I believe that is very important. I don't know about development of breed, because a breed is a breed. It develops. I would say that the breed can improve. Improve what? Improve the exhibition of their original characteristics. That's what I believe. So the judge is important to bring up some inconveniences in the breed due to the excess of fats and overtype, among other aspects that sort them. At that moment, the role of the judges becomes really crucial to eliminate those tendencies and bring it back to the original characteristics regarding structure, functionality, and type, which are the core of each standard. So we have excellent judges at FCI, and I believe most of them understand their importance, role, and act accordingly. Of course, this is not unanimous, and unfortunately, there are some who are more concerned with the glamour that they see being in the center of dog show than with the seriousness and dedication that position requires. But I think those are just few, and the vast majority certainly act as expected.
And as we mentioned earlier, you have judged widely in the States, in Canada, and Mexico, and even in Brazil, you have a portion of professional handlers. Do you adopt a different approach when judging handlers as opposed to the ordinary person who's just out showing their own dog?
No, really, there's no difference at all. Because the first thing we learn when we start to judge or start to study to be a judge is that we must not judge the other end of the leash, but only the dog. So it doesn't matter who is carrying the dog, theoretically. I would say that is almost always like that. But there are moments when you have to get a little bit out of that line of behavior or concept. Not all owner handlers, for instance, are able to show their dogs properly. And they demand a little more of the judge's tolerance. It is also very important that we can encourage owner handlers to be in the shows and do a good job, which will only be achieved with some extra patience from the judge, as long as we don't compromise timing and the organization of the show schedule. We cannot forget that a dog show is paid by amateurs. It's paid by owner handlers. It's not paid by. So
that's quite true.
The majority. So we need to treat that people, well.
Yeah.
And treating well is to be patient with that old lady that has little dog and that are sleeping behind her. You need to, judge has to. I have some colleagues that they don't have that kind of tolerance. And sometimes you might be rude with that exhibitor, which is wrong because you're going to take them away of the shows, which is we're going to end up only with professional handlers, and they are few, and they don't pay for the show. That's it. So I believe that tolerance is very important.
Again, in your introduction, I mentioned that you've been president of many clubs, and you, as you say yourself, you are involved in the Kennel Club. How important do you think it is for you to give something back to the sport? And do you think enough people do it?
Well, of course, it is very important. Our sport lives on volunteers who give their time, often even money, so that we can have clubs, exhibitions, trials, study meetings, training courses, and everything. So despite a certain misconception that leaders and organizers take advantage from the association they run, the truth is that this rarely happens. Of course, we have good people and bad people everywhere in every kind of community in the world, as well as in the dog world.
Yes.
But as far as I can see, we have a lot of dedicated people helping as they can. They help their breeds, their clubs, their communities,
Mm.
and I think we found that these people in every country in FCI. And although the more arms are better results we can have, of course, I believe we're doing well now. Of course, as much people, the better.
Yes. And do you think we involve young people enough?
Well, I don't think we have enough people in the organizational side of our sport.
Mm.
Young people approach the sport through dogs and seek the emotions that the dogs brings. That include exhibitions, again, breeding, field, trials, agility, and everything that means activity with dogs. Organizational work is necessary, but unfortunately, it's not attractive to
That's
young
true.
people in general. Although we can see many young people, working hard in clubs and breed clubs and general clubs all over the world. So it's very important. I think it's more important to have them in the sport so they can, in a certain time of their dog world life, they will be interested in helping in some support areas. So it's necessary to keep them close.
Mm.
But
And
I don't see many working in organizations.
and just expanding just a little bit on that, do you think this whole pandemic situation is going to have a negative impact in people coming back to the sport? Do you think we're going to lose a lot of people?
I guess so. I guess so, because the pandemic is changing the lives of everyone in the world. We are becoming more family people. We are staying at home much more than we used to.
Saving money.
Saving money, yes. I receive my credit card bills every month. It is amazing. I'm thinking about a third party what I used to, because there's no restaurant bills, no airline tickets, no nothing. So of course life changed. On the other hand, I can see that many of our sport people, they're crazy to get back. So I believe the moment that we open a big show in a big center, everyone is going to bring even the old dog at home. Oh, let's go, because we need to see people. We need to get this moving again. So I don't think we will. Of course, we're going to have a learning curve again.
Yes.
But I believe we're going to get to the same point we left in a short time.
Moving on to a slightly more, well, not a slightly more serious, in terms of dogs, is a more serious issue. And as your background is boxers, what's your view on how kennel clubs across the world are dealing with this whole issue surrounding brachycephalic breeds and health issues, and how they're dealing with these activist groups that are becoming so much more proactive in the world?
Yeah, well, that's a real problem today, I believe, everywhere. And in Brazil is not different. Although there's a great lack of information and also many profiteers among the activists, not all of them are serious. But the truth is that there's also a lot of abuse by puppy mills all over the world. So large and powerful clubs are able to deal with that kind of problem in a more easy way, because then they have people that can have help to check on kennels, to inspect kennels. But the small clubs, for small clubs, that's not that easy.
Yes.
And so those small clubs are those who suffer more pressure from the NGOs. Anyway, I believe the responsibility it belongs to the club to control the health of the kennels, the conditions where the dogs are being raised and bred, and also in the shows. There's a lot of problem with dogs that are left over tables for hours without any kind of care, special care. and dogs that are left in cages under the sun and everything. That kind of thing that, of course, brings a lot of problems to the club. So
Yes.
pay more attention to that. And in regard to what they could do, they should. So for us judges, we should severely penalize overtime, particularly those that can affect head health. So excessive short muscle, difficult breathing, excessive cold compromising free movements, excessive wrinkles and hindering vision, and some, everything that could compromise the health of the dog. So if we let's say make disappear, or at least we diminish those problems, of course we're going to be diminishing the action of the NGOs against us.
Yes.
That's what I think.
But do you think that, again, I don't know how South American clubs are I'm not sure that it's such a big issue in the United States itself, but certainly on this side of the world, there is a tendency now for kennel clubs to maybe change standards within breeds, to make insist that the muzzles are becoming longer.
No, well, actually, to change a standard according to FCI rules, you have to own the rights on the standard. So, we have very little breeds, South American breeds, and those standards are not being changed because of that health issue or something. And I don't think FCI should change standards because of that. I believe we should adjust our let's say behavior towards those breeds in order to avoid excess and everything, but not to change the standards. Standards are
absolutely.
If the standards were built correctly, why change? So it's like cutting a finger because you have a problem in the nail. So it's just nonsense for me.
Yes. And do you think kennel clubs should perhaps adopt a common policy, or do you think FCI and Kennel Club London and the other major kennel clubs should get together and form a common policy and lobby politicians?
Well, each country has its own idiosyncrasy, and what can be a solution for us not necessarily works for others. So, in general, I believe that some lobby can be used to clarify what we are really doing with dogs and the benefits that our sport bring to society. I believe we sell very poorly our sport,
Yes.
People believe that we are a bunch of ladies trying to conquer a nice little pet and everything. That's nothing. We have dogs working hard with the police, with the army, in a lot of areas, and so. But people doesn't know that. That's the problem. They don't know that, and I believe that kind of union with the countries in order to promote that. I believe that should be very important.
I think that's a very valid point.
Yeah, it's more effective. It would be more effective if we adopted in all segments of our activity more restricted practices to refrain potential abuse. That's what I believe, and to promote the let's say the core purpose of our sport.
I think that's a very valid point. I think that's worth pursuing, actually. So moving on a little more light-hearted, 4 dinner guests you must have at a dinner table.
Well, I believe the question refers to the dog world.
You can.
I'm fortunate enough to dine with people I most admire in our sport because they are my friends, and we are together whenever possible. So I believe I'm almost completely satisfied with that. But if I look through time, I believe it would be a unique experience to be able to sit at the table with Anne Rogers Clark
Mm-hmm.
Very important American judge. I believe one of the best judges of all times. And I would love to hear from that about judging techniques and everything. And Rogers Clark was a wonderful lady that really brought the sport to an important level. But
Okay.
if it wasn't on the dog world,
Oh yeah, go on.
I would love to sit with Napoleon. And
Really?
even better with Napoleon and Rogers Clark. They probably won't talk together. They have no. But I would love to ask some questions to them. To both of them.
That's interesting. I've never had Napoleon mentioned before.
Yeah,
But there you go.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
And is there a judge or a breeder in the world that you have a huge admiration for?
Well, there are a lot of them.
Mm.
I've been wonderful dogs bred by very consistent breeders, and I'm going to mention a couple of them, but really, probably I would stay here talking about half an hour with you about that. Anyway, among all of them, I can highlight three.
Mm-hmm.
In Brazil, Carlos Pedroso, kennel Três Pinheiros with wire-haired Dachshunds. Wonderful breeder.
Mm-hmm.
Portugal, I would mention José Homem de Melo.
Mm-hmm.
Sete Moinhos with his wonderful and terrific Basset Hounds.
Absolutely.
And in Chile, Ramon Podestá, Houseman Kennel, with the most beautiful African hounds I ever seen in my life. Well, because these three are really remarkable. But there are many good breeders in the world, of course. There are.
Absolutely.
I asked their individuals to not mention them anyway.
And your funniest or most embarrassing moment in the ring as an exhibitor or a judge?
Well, no, as an exhibitor, I didn't have any situation, as we used to say in the States. But as a judge, I can remember, I witnessed some of them over the years, but one of them happened a long time ago. I remember a distinguished and very elegant lady that was showing me her foxtail Hawaii. And when she knelt down to prepare the dog, her wig fell on the ground. Of course, it was immediately grabbed by the dog that ran out fighting with the wig, and was followed by the poor woman screaming bad words and cursing the enemy. It was really hilarious. It was a poor lady, and she was an English lady. She's living in Brazil, But that was really funny. I had to sit down to laugh for that.
Did the dog win?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Did the dog win?
Oh, the wig was destroyed at the end. The dog was thinking it was a rat or something like that, and the dog was withdrawn from the ring because the dog was mad at the time.
And what's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, I'm a sinner. I have several, but certainly the gourmet excesses are the most frequent. Good food, framed by a good wine in a suitable ambience, with a good company, of course. It's irresistible. That's it.
I know you have a house in Portugal, but if you weren't in Brazil and you could be transported somewhere else in the world, where would it be?
Well, that's the easiest question that you're asking today. Portugal, of course. Anyway, in these difficult times we're living now, with border closed and all the time, and with the limitations imposed by the quarantine, being able to travel free is something that I really miss. So I would say that anywhere. But
anywhere right now.
Portugal is always my heart destination.
And finally, Ricardo, if you could write your epitaph, what would it be?
Well, I would like to write, as a joke, of course, but this is the long life for a man in the world after 200 years around. But I know that would be ridiculous. I would just write, it was a wonderful life. I really had a wonderful life. I had no complaints at all. And if I have to do it all over again, I will do it.
Well,
Less, of course, but wonderful life. Yeah, that's what I would write.
well, this has gone by far too quickly, Ricardo. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. Great reaction on Facebook. We've had loads of people watching. Andy Ingram, Andrew Brace, Michael Forte is watching.
Oh, good friend.
Yes, Ultimate Mo is watching. There's so many people watching tonight. And thank you very much for taking the time. Enjoy your holiday for the next day or two. And I hope very soon, or certainly within the next year, we will all be meeting up again and sharing some good conversation, good food, and a good glass of wine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you for the opportunity of sharing some time with you and with your friends. It was a pleasure. Ireland is a place where I have very good memories and very good friends.
But you wouldn't have very good memories right now because it is freezing cold and snowing.
Anyway, well, here is summer. Look how I'm dressed. It's
Fair point.
Pretty summer. And I really thank you very, very much for the opportunity. And I will enjoy my caipirinha and just say cheers.
Aslanja.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.